It's nothing worse than being in spiritual psychosis, but also playing in magic that you have no clue about. It makes you do some unspeakable things. Welcome back, YouTube, and for those who do not know me, hello. My name is Noah, and on this channel we talk about death, true crimes, haunted people, places, and things, spiritual reparations, and how you can fuck around and find out. If you're not subscribed to your bestie, go ahead and click the subscribe button, turn that notification bell on. And if you're not following me over on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, follow me there as well. On today's episode, we will be discussing the heartbreaking case of Gail Trait, also known as the Voodoo murders. Now, I'm going to tell y'all right now, this case is absolutely heartbreaking. It involves children and other very unfortunate events. So if you do not stomach that type of thing well, I recommend that you skip this video. Now, I want everybody to really take this case, and at the end of it, let me know if you really think that she was under some type of voodoo curse or spell, because that's what the news reported it as, or if you truly believe that she had a psychotic break. And I'll tell you what I think at the end. This story takes us to Buffalo, New York, the east side, where Gail Trait was born and raised, and she lived on a street called Victoria. Neighbors reported that she was very quiet, kept to herself. Her children were well behaved. They always were clean, dressed, their hair was always done. In no way, shape, or form did these kids appear to be being abused or anything like that. She was just a young mother trying to survive. She was a mother of 4. She had a 9-year-old girl named Kylia, a girl named Amina, and she was 6, another girl named Inez, she was 4, and a little boy named Demario, he was 2. Interestingly enough, she went to church every Sunday and kept her kids in the church every single Sunday. Gail had been married to a man named Charles Trait, but they had been separated for about 3 years. The oldest, Kylia, the 9-year-old girl, did not biologically belong to Charles, but she took on the last name Trait as well. In January of 1978, Gail decided to go back to school. She went to a community college and she was going for nursing. She was trying to better herself and make a better life for her and her kids. Gail's classmates, her professors, all said that she was a seemingly normal student. She excelled in her classes. She got all A's, and y'all know how hard nursing classes are. Even back then, they weren't just an easy feat, but she was getting all A's in her classes. Now, one thing that some students did say is that they were wondering how Gail's mental health was, because sometimes she would just break down and start crying in class. So even though she was excelling and doing well in her studies, something else was at amiss, if you will. Gail was probably overwhelmed going to nursing school and being a mom of 4, a single parent. She was getting child support from her estranged husband, but that wasn't no real money. You couldn't really make it go that far with 4 kids. And because she felt so overwhelmed and like she wasn't doing the best she could, in May of 1978, she voluntarily placed her children in foster care. It is worth mentioning that Kylia's father, his name was Joseph Persons. He received paperwork for Kylia saying that the reason why the children were in foster care was because of some abuse allegations, but that has never been proven or anything like that. So I just wanted to give you that context because Kylia's father, Joseph, was around, but these men, they had children with this woman and just was like, oh, here you go, do it by yourself. So even though there was that paperwork, or he claims that paperwork was delivered to him, it was never proven. Additionally, Joseph Persons tried to get his daughter back. And for some reason, CPS back then and Department of Welfare, they would not give this man his daughter. And they were saying this was what was best for Kylia, and she'll be able to finish her nursing program and get herself together, which didn't make sense at all. Why not give this man his daughter when the mother, Gail, voluntarily placed her in foster care? The system is wicked and it always has been. They should have definitely gave Kylia to her father. Now here's where it starts to get a little wicked. A month and a half after the first week of July, she requests that the children be returned into her care from foster care. Her reasonings behind requesting the children back vary. Some people say the reason why she requested them back is because she was receiving social services such as food stamps and different benefits for the children. And how it works back then is that if you don't have the kids, you don't get those benefits anymore. It would go to their primary caretaker. Another reason that was stated that she wanted the children back is because she was reportedly going to take the kids down to Atlanta. Like she was moving with family and they would help her. And then someone else said the reason why she took the children back was that she was to give them to someone in Atlanta, a family member, so that she can finish up her education in Buffalo. It was reportedly a bunch of different reasons why, but either way, just remember, July 7th, 1978, she took these kids out of foster care. 2 weeks later, she abruptly moved out of her apartment on Victoria Street and moved into her mom's apartment. No one was quite sure why Gail just abruptly moved. I'm assuming it was for financial reason, to save money and to stay with her mom. But either way, she moved in. And the same night, she went out with her boyfriend. He was a local cab driver named Ernest Teal. They attended a friend's wedding party, which I'm assuming like a reception. And at the party, people were saying that Gail started to talk about that craziness, that strange talk. Now, for context, whenever people say that, they really mean that it's something that is taboo and weird, that is unorthodox. Conversations would have absolutely made you side-eye what Gail was saying. Now, this was July 15th, 1978. The next day, Ernest came to check on Gail. She was acting so unusual and talking so crazy the night before that he wanted to make sure her and the children were okay. He came over 2 different times. The first time, she wouldn't even open the door for him, so he left. But he couldn't shake this weird, bad feeling, and he wanted to check on her and them kids. So he went back and he was knocking on the door, but she would not open it. The type of apartment that Gail's mother had, it really was like a duplex. And the landlady was overhearing all of this because she lived in the other apartments. The landlady's name was Louise Peterson. And they also had a third tenant that lived in the building. I don't know how many apartments were in this building, but her name was Lena Jones. So Lena comes down to Louise's apartment and they're, conversing, just kind of chatting each other up. And then they hear commotion coming from Gail's mother's apartment. Lena and Louise heard a lot of screaming, the children specifically screaming. It was so bad that Lena wanted to go check on the kids and told Louise that she was going to go knock on the door. And Louise was like, that's none of our business. Like, don't do that. After a while, the screaming just became too much for Lena. And Lena's like, I'm going up there because it started off as screaming and it was Gail screaming at her kids, tell me I'm your mother. Like, I can't believe Louise could just sit back and be like, mind your business. But I'm assuming that they thought that she was like whooping the children. And back then that was socially acceptable to beat your kids. So I'm assuming that's what's going on. And even in the reports, Lena said that they assumed that the kids were getting a whooping. Mind you, Gail's mother was not at home while all this happened. Okay, so it's not like mom just sat around and watched this commotion. So Lena, being the neighbor that we all want, goes to the downstairs apartment where Gail and the kids are and starts banging on the door. So Lena is banging on Gail's door and she's banging for a long time. And eventually the children's cries just kind of die out. Like it just gets quiet. And so she continues to bang on the door. Gail flings the door open, looks at Lena covered from head to toe in blood and says, "You're not my mother." And after she does this, she steps forward and falls forward. And Lena tries to catch her, but she's obviously like bigger in stature and knocks over Lena and falls on top of her. And Lena screams to Mrs. Peterson to call 911. So they call 911, EMS and police show up on the scene. They take Lena to the hospital by ambulance to check out her injuries. And while she's in the ambulance covered in blood, she's rambling about a voodoo curse. Voodoo curse. Now, this woman was seemingly normal a couple days before, and now it's just mumbled, jumbled. Some of it makes sense. And the EMSs are looking at each other like, what the hell is going on? Back at the house, police entered the residence and found 2 of Gail's children bludgeoned to death in the living room. It only got worse as they went throughout the apartment. There was literally blood from the ceiling to the floor. It was everywhere. In the kitchen, there was pots of blood. Like literal pots filled up with blood. An anatomy book on the kitchen table, and a set of little human eyes in a bowl. Not only did she bludgeon 2 of the children, she stabbed each child well over 60 times. Like, the lady lost her damn mind. Additionally, not only did she remove the 2-year-old's eyes, she also removed his hand at the wrist and his leg at the hip. At the hospital, they were treating Gail, and they are thinking like she is stabbed herself because she has so much blood all over her. But once they clean her up, they realize she has no stab wounds. None. Now, for context purposes, Lena, the neighbor that knocked on the door earlier that day, thought that her boyfriend Ernest was in the apartment. She said she saw him left, but maybe he was still in there. So whenever the police went up to her apartment, they were looking for a man perpetrator. So, of course, the doctors, nurses, and the police that are communicating with each other put 2 and 2 together, that there was no other perpetrator. This woman, Gail Trait, was the murderer. The next day, the neighbor Lena was interviewed, and she was suffering from immense guilt. She feels like if she would have came sooner, she could have saved the children. They also talked to Mrs. Peterson, and basically she said she thought she was whooping her kids and she was trying to mind her business. But they both felt super guilty and felt like they could have saved the children if they had acted sooner. When her boyfriend Ernest was interviewed after the murders, he said the strange talk at the wedding reception was her rambling on about a voodoo curse and how she was going to kill her children. Yes, sis told anybody that would listen. So he went to her mother because her mother attended the party as well and told her mom what Gail was saying. Her mom brushed it off and said she's behaving as normal. Like, she's just trying to get a rise out of people, not taking it seriously. And then proceeded to let her stay in the house with the kids by herself. And that's why Ernest was so concerned and went back the next day to check on her. Also, she told EMS inside of the ambulance like that the kids had a voodoo curse on them. And whenever the detectives went through the house, they found a lot of puppets or voodoo dolls and other like spiritual paraphernalia. And Joseph, Kylia's father, and the estranged husband said that she practiced voodoo. Her family practiced voodoo and other what they call black magic. It's not my words, it's theirs. On July 18th, 1978, all 4 children were laid to rest. They had a beautiful service. People of the community came out, and Gail actually was at the funeral. I mean, who's going to intervene at some point? Gail's attorney argued that she was an undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenic and that she had a psychotic break and killed all of her children. Whereas prosecutors was like, bullshit, she talked about it the day before and still seemingly was normal. So, miss me with that. Gail was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and she didn't even serve that. After year 10, her charges got overturned. And I think it was mainly due to the fact that they said they found voodoo dolls in the kitchen, and they really didn't. They did not. It was some janky police work done. I don't know. It's not clear and it's not a lot of information since this case is so old. But after year 10, she was sent to a psychiatric hospital. And that's because she did try to set herself on fire in jail. And then she was released in 1998 and she moved to Seneca Falls to act like she did not murder her 4 kids. Now I'm going to give y'all my short think piece. Not everybody needs to be initiated into the religion. Okay? Just because your mama's mama practice does not mean you have to be initiated into the voodoo religion. Because a lot of some peoples be having undiagnosed mental health issues. disorders. That's number one. And it's not just for voodoo, because voodoo is a religion and it's not this, and it gets a bad rap because of shit like this. That goes for all spirituality, all lanes, all pantheons, all religions. Because if your mind ain't right, them spirits is going to play on your top. They're going to play on your top. And then you'll be experiencing spiritual psychosis, thinking your kids got a curse on them, talking to spirits, right? And really they're trickster energies. Like, what would make someone do this? What kind of curse? Who told her this? What member of the Loa told her that? And it was just such a waste of life. Them children did not have to die. I feel like everybody around her failed her. Failed those children, I should say. They absolutely failed those kids. Because the boyfriend should have called the police when he saw the mama wasn't doing right. The mama should have got her daughter and took her to a hospital. The neighbors should have knocked on the door when they first heard them babies screaming. Listen, y'all got to be careful. These spirits will turn you every way but loose. They will trick your ass, or your mind will trick you. And that is all for today, YouTube. And if you are interested in traveling with me, because I know it's tax time and I know you got it, sis. If you're wanting to travel with me to either Bali, Indonesia in July, or Costa Rica in September, click the links down below. And if you have some spiritual tea that you would like to tell me, I'm going to be leaving the hotline for my new show that is up and coming, Tarot and Tea. Now, please leave a voicemail. If you have to leave two, I can see that it's the same one. Just start off with part 2. But thank you guys so much for always supporting and loving the content. And until next time, y'all do good, be good, and stay safe.